Life has a way of presenting you with life-changing choices at a moment when you least expect it. These choices may not only change your own life, but also the lives of others. In this video, you will witness what Lena went through, a woman who survived being trapped under the rubble of a devastating earthquake years back, who lost her loved ones in it, and whose life was never the same, with an emptiness in her since then. Lena experienced a devastating tragedy at a very young age. A strong earthquake in California destroyed their home and took the lives of her loved ones. When she was pulled out from under the rubble, the only thing left to her was the emptiness that she would carry within her for years. She could never get over that night. The collapsed houses, the cries for help, the deaths, they all left deep scars on her mind. The foster system stepped in after her family died. She stayed with different families for a little while, then with relatives. Time passed and she grew up and completed her education. She tried to wipe out her pain, but never could. Yet that pain strengthened her. She wanted to save lives, to see that in the event of future disasters, no one else would be left helpless. With that in mind, after college graduation, she joined a special CIA program. Lena was a diligent, focused, and disciplined intelligence officer. She was involved in many successful operations throughout the years. But the most important decision of her life would be taken years afterward in an operation she was involved in. She had to infiltrate a big criminal syndicate. She prepared for months, planned, and then entered the syndicate with a false identity. She was cautious in the early days. She didn't get close to anyone, just did her job. As time passed, she won the organization members' trust. But there was this one man who drew her attention. His name was Ethan. Ethan held mid-ranking authority in the group. He was not conspicuous, but he made important decisions. He behaved as if he knew more than he said. But that was not what caught Lena's attention. It was something else. When she first saw him, she felt something she could not describe. A familiar look on a stranger's face, as if she knew him. Lena first thought it must be the stress of her mission, but as time passed, the signs became harder to ignore. After one group session, when all were leaving, Ethan was humming a little song. Lena froze in her tracks. It was a little kid's song. It seemed odd to her that Ethan would be humming this type of thing. But it was also a song that she had heard in her own home many years earlier, something that no outsider could ever hear. Lena's mind was really spinning. She paid closer attention to Ethan over the course of the next several days. On his wrist, she noticed a mark. It was like a birthmark in the same location that her brother had when they were children. This characteristic brought about more questions for Lena. One night, she decided to play detective. She slipped into the archives in secret. She went through old earthquake reports, missing children cases, and hospital reports separately. She found a record of a boy who was pulled alive from the rubble years earlier, whose identity was never established, and who had lost his memory. DNA records weren't prevalent then, and during the chaos of the earthquake, records were mixed up. This record matched Ethan's background. Lena's heart skipped a beat. This could not be. She had, as a child, thought her brother to have died in that earthquake. His body was never recovered, but in that great disaster, many bodies had been mixed up. And since her brother's body was never found, he was presumed dead. Here now before her stood her brother, alive with another name in a criminal underworld. Ethan was not his birth name, but for a person who was a member of such a group, going under an assumed name was normal. She couldn't very well tell him the truth immediately, because Ethan was still working with the organization. If he knew the truth, her mission would be jeopardized, and Ethan himself would be in greater danger. Lena held herself back, but inside, she tortured herself trying to think of a means to rescue her brother. In time, Ethan began to trust Lena, He followed her small instructions, took her counsel. Lena wanted to use this confidence to redirect the operation. The day of the operation came. Lena put into action the clever plan she had formulated. She informed headquarters of a gathering where the most senior leaders of the organization would meet. The team was ready and moved in. But Lena wrote her reports in such a way that Ethan would stay out of the spotlight as the operation was executed. When it did, the organization received a devastating blow. Its highest leaders were arrested, documents and evidence seized. Ethan, however, remained in the shadows. The mission was accomplished. All went as planned. But Lena was aware that this was a temporary fix. If Ethan continued to be in the organization, sooner or later, he would be captured or killed. She had to create another avenue for him, so she took a tremendous risk. She completely broke CIA protocol and secretly established a false identity for Ethan. She coordinated his exodus abroad through her connections. Her career would be over if discovered, and she could even be indicted. But Lena did all this without letting her brother know. Ethan had no idea. Lena rendezvoused with Ethan following the operation at a secluded, quiet location outside the city. There, she told him everything: the family they had lost during the earthquake, the files she had found years later, the signs, the necklace, the birthmark. Ethan was in shock. Fragments of memories began to resurface in his mind, though he could not remember completely. All his life, he had been searching for a past that was his. Now, faced with this truth, all the missing pieces began to fall into place. However, the one thing Lena gave him wasn't the truth. She also gave Ethan a chance at a new life. She handed him the false identity and the path out. Ethan didn't say much. There was thanks along with bewilderment in his eyes. Lena knew that she would never see him again, but the fact that her brother was alive was enough for her. That evening, Ethan left and crossed the border. He had a new identity now, a new life. Lena returned to work. She filed her reports, covering the truth. She knew she had taken a risk. It could be found out someday. But for the moment, her heart was at peace, because she didn't want to lose her brother again. Months passed. There was no word from Ethan. All that reached Lena was a small envelope. Inside was a short message. "Know that I'm alive. That is enough for me. Thank you for everything." Lena read that message over and over. It strengthened her to know that her brother was alive. She would never see him again, but this news filled at least a part of the emptiness in her. Life frequently forces us to make decisions of great consequence. There is no right or wrong, only choices with consequences. Lena had to choose between her mission and her brother. The price was high, but in the end, she knew one thing: her brother was alive. She had saved his life. And you, what would you have done? Your duty or your blood? Would you risk your own future to save your brother? I truly want to hear your answer, because one day, perhaps, all of us will reach just such a fork in the road.